Hello, and welcome to the Gruver Tech Stream. I'm your host, Chuck Gruver, and hopefully this won't sound too terrible. I tried using a different streaming software, but I couldn't get the camera set up how I wanted it to by just getting a small cropped-in shot of my face rather than the full wide-angle shot that my webcam provides. And if you noticed, I didn't call it the Gruver Gaming Stream this week, and that is partially because, as I was rambling on about a couple weeks ago, considering doing other stuff on the stream besides just gaming. And last week I talked about, rather than doing a game, I would look at showing how to set up your Windows PC to use a gamepad as a mouse. And now this screen that you're seeing is my desktop on my secondary laptop. It's not my primary laptop that I'm using to record this video. And I haven't set up the software on this laptop yet. So you can see it. It's right here. It's a little 10-inch. Actually, it's Inspiron 11 3000. One of the newer ones. It originally had 4 gigs of RAM, upgraded it to 8 gigs. It has a 128 gigabyte solid state drive, which, kind of hindsight, I probably should have opted for the 1 terabyte spinning drive instead of the 128 gig solid state, just for the space. But we'll go ahead and what we'll look at is basically 2 methods that I found that tend to work for setting up the gamepad to emulate a mouse. Because on my computers, due to lack of desk space, using more than one monitor, things like that, a lot of times a mouse is very inconvenient. So I use things like, right now I have hooked up to my secondary laptop a little trigger trackball. Hold it in your hand, kind of like a trigger. And then on my main computer, I have kind of a regular trackball. It's not the Logitech TrackMan, but it is pretty much the same style, where it's the trackball is moved with your thumb. That has a number of buttons that I've customized, other than the standard left and right click, to do things such as cut, copy, and paste without having to use the keyboard, because there are times when I'm doing stuff, and the worst is using things like Google Docs, where you have to, if you want to do cut and paste, if you don't have your keyboard handy, you can't do it because it wants you to use the keyboard shortcuts rather than right-clicking and choosing copy or paste or things like that. Which at one time was a pain when it wouldn't let you there was one thing, for some reason it wouldn't let me bold. I had to use the keyboard shortcut for bolding one time, and in Google Docs, which at the same time, they had that same keyboard shortcut in Google Chrome, which is what I was using, set up for the bookmarks. So when you went to go bold something using the keyboard shortcut, it would open up your bookmarks instead. But into setting up the computer for the Gamepad. First thing to do would be to open up your web browser. I'll use the new Microsoft Edge. It's not much different than Chrome. Oh, I thought I had it set up for. Right. Pull off. Pull that down. I kind of had it set up for showing some of the last stuff Basically, I have it set up, evidently opens where I last left off. Which you can see I've already downloaded the two programs. One's called JoyToKey, and the other one's Keysticks. But basically what you do is just search JoyToKey and basically download the latest version. From what I understand, they are free to use. JoyToKey, basically it says it's shareware, but you can download the latest version for free. If you find it useful, you can purchase a license key at any time. I'm not sure what purchasing the license key will do. During the trial period, you can purchase. As I said, I'm not sure how long, because I've been using this for a couple weeks. I don't know how long of a trial period, or if it's kind of like the old days with WinZip, where you had the trial period that after the 30-day trial period, it still lets you use it. It just kept bugging you about purchasing a key. As I said, you go download it for free. And then downloads, and I'll go ahead and just run it from here. JoyToKey setup. More info, because it's not an unrecognized app. It says you can be putting your PC at risk. I'll let you decide whether you want to take that risk. I did. I'll click run anyway. Yes. Accept. Basically, the screen tells you by default it will store the user data configurations under JoyToKey in your default documents folder, which on Windows, especially Windows 10, and more likely unless you switched it, that default documents folder is the one located in your OneDrive account. And I will show you something regarding that once we get this installed. But there are, if you want to locate those files someplace else, it does, their website does give you some indications of how to do it by going into the registry to move that configuration file. I tried it, but then every time I closed and reopened it, or restarted my computer, I would have to reprogram my gamepad, which if I just leave everything to the default, it stays where it is, and I have no problems with the configuration files. And I think because USB ports on my main laptop are, or I should say my main laptop seems to be kind of 3 legs in a grave and one on a banana peel, there is evidently some kind of flickering with the screen. I was doing at the church I go to, I'm the one that does the live stream stuff, and I use my laptop for that too, and it was where we had to avoid bumping my laptop, because if we jolted the USB connection, it would freeze up the screen on us, or the video. So, alright, I'll go ahead and just create a desktop shortcut. Next, install. Next, finish, launch JoyToKey. Alright. Go ahead and close that. Alright. With that, I will go ahead and plug the gamepad into one of my USB ports. Alright. Setting up the device, generic USB joystick. Alright. Options, 2-stick POV. Alright. Settings. Configure joysticks. Alright, one thing I will mention on these gamepads that are similar to basically the PlayStation gamepad style. I'm not familiar with the Xbox style type gamepad. But on these, there's a mode button or an analog button. You want to basically click that and make sure, like on this one that I have, make sure it's the red light's on. Or else, when you go to configure the gamepad, right, okay, properties. Okay. Settings, calibrate. Next. Handle and complete circles. Alright. Next. Third. Press the button on the controller. Right, axis calibration. Move the Z-axis all the way up and down. Alright, right now the Z-axis is left and right on the on the right hand joystick. Right. Z rotation would be up and down on that same joystick. Finish. Right, Z-axis, Z-rotation, Z-axis, X and Y-axis. And what is going on is probably the fact that I have this set up on my other computer. It looks like all of my buttons are already mapped. Yep. And this is one issue with at least this software. There's times when the controller loses its connection. But one thing you'll notice is when you get back to this screen, usually it will look on a first install, if you haven't put this on another machine like I did, it'll look like this where none of it's set up. And what you would do is you just, let's go, as you move or press buttons, it will show you what that button corresponds to. Like the left-hand joystick on this one, on this controller, is stick 1. And for some reason the highlighting's not showing well. And that's because the video froze. Properties. Right. Now, as I was showing, as you move, press buttons or move the joysticks around. But for some reason, it's not wanting to. Let's go options, configure. No wonder on this install, if you noticed when we did this, the configure or the calibration, it was doing Z-axis and R rotation, but right now it's showing that it has the horizontal and vertical on stick 2 as rotations for the X and Y, so we'll set those to their appropriate things. Just make sure, left and right, up and down. Click OK. So now when we go back to joystick 1, as I move up and down, left and right. POV is the traditional directional pad. And like on this, and now we get to the part where basically is the highlighting really comes in handy, because at least on this controller and another one that I have that's very similar, it will 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But if it's set up like the PlayStation one with the different shapes on the controller, or my other controller that I have that's USB, like these 4 buttons here are numbered, but the left and right buttons on the back aren't. And to make matters even more confusing, on that other controller, 5 and 6, 7 and 8 are actually swapped around. Like on this controller, I have button 1 set up for copy, button 2 is the right mouse click, button 3 is left mouse click, button 4 is paste, so I can easily do copy and paste. Button 5 is shift, so because at my regular job I do a lot of stuff on listing on eBay. That's also why the copy and paste on buttons on like the mouse and everything are very convenient, because I will write up the descriptions for what I'm posting on eBay in Google Docs, and then I can just, as I'm listing it, without having to use the keyboard to do copy and paste, just the Control-C button on the Gamepad, or at work I've also set up an 11-button mouse to do the same thing, and Control paste it into the description, and with that I've also set up with the directional pad some shortcuts, but basically 5 and 6 are shift and control for when I'm doing like going to select a bunch of like images or files in Windows Explorer. 7 and 8 is Alt Tab. I tried doing it as one button, but it wouldn't work properly for me, but as you can see, just Alt Tab. Let's switch to and then like on the directional pad, I have, if I push up on the up arrow, that takes you up to the top of the page. Also, the right joystick is my kind of emulates my scroll wheel, up and down, scrolls up and down. I'll go into the setups for that because that's kind of confusing. Left and right on it would be if there was any horizontal scrolling. But then left and right on the directional pad is the right button is Control Tab for switching to the next tab to the right, or if you're at the rightmost tab, it would just take you back to the first one. Control Shift goes, let's open up another tab to kind of better show it working. The left directional button goes back tabs, the right directional button goes forward tabs. And right. Then 9 is my delete button, again, for kind of along the same lines as the selecting multiple files, rather than doing right click, or the right click button and delete, just basically control click, shift click to highlight everything, and then just hit the delete button to delete them. And then button 10, which on some controllers is the start button. Button 9 is the select. Button 10 is usually the start button. Is Control X for cut, because there are times when I want to actually do a cut, like again, with the eBay pictures, I actually take pictures on my camera, which automatically uploads them to, I originally was using Google Photos, for the automatic uploads, but a year ago, or about a year ago, I think it was, or whenever it was that Google decided it was too confusing having Google Photos directly integrated into Google Drive, so they completely separated the two. I was I guess I was one of the few that thought that was a dumb move, because I actually would rely on my phone uploading my pictures to Google Photos, and then I would go into the Google Photos folder in Google Drive to access the folders that I just uploaded, to edit them, make sure that when I go to use an eBay, they aren't rotated oddly for some strange reason. So what I've been doing instead of that is I've been using OneDrive, because OneDrive has the same functionality. It will allow me to automatically upload my pictures to my OneDrive account, and then I'll go in, and because unlike Google Photos, where you don't have the high-end or the high-quality unlimited uploads, OneDrive, you basically are still limited to, no matter what type of quality the uploads are, to the amount of space in your OneDrive account, which right now I'm using their free tier, so I don't have a whole lot of space. I've debated some about, both with Google Drive and OneDrive, of going for one of their paid tiers for a little bit more space there. But basically the Control X is, again, so I don't have to, where I can quickly just cut them out from the Photos folder in OneDrive, then I paste them into a local folder on my computer, which I then go from there and edit. And then button 11 and 12 are basically on the two joysticks. On a lot of these, if you push down, are actually buttons. And since they're buttons that I would very rarely use, but there's functionalities, one's kind of lazy. F5 is, let's go here, F5 is refresh on the website. And then the Windows X button is for the advanced menu, because there are times where in my personal stuff I've wanted to run the PowerShell in administrator mode, and I always have to look up how to bring up this menu to get that. So now that I've memorized that it was Windows X, I just programmed it into a mouse or a button feature. As I said, there are some tricks, and this is where probably some of the cons with this software comes in, besides of it being shareware and not knowing what happens after the trial period, that they don't mention how long of a trial period it is if you go into like the assignments, this is what the assignment area looks like. I have it basically set up for 30 speed. I found this is one thing I haven't been able to really get just playing around with it. 30 gives me a fairly decent speed for the mouse, where it's not too slow, but it's not where I'm constantly overshooting stuff. You have to set it up for basically the speed and mouse movement direction for which stick 1, up direction on stick 1, down direction on stick 1. Then when we get to stick 2, which is where I was doing the scroll wheel stuff, left and right, -10. Basically, I'm not sure how the number relates, because I don't think 3 would be the 3 lines that your usual scroll wheel is set to. 10 seems to be about right for the horizontal rotation or scroll wheel movement or scrolling. Negative moves the page to would be like what you think, with the pushing the joystick to the left, you would scroll to the left at what's a negative number. Thus, pushing the joystick to the right with a positive number would scroll it to the right. And here's where the tricky part comes in, because when I first tried this, I actually had it backwards. For some reason, when you want to scroll up on the page, you have to think of it going backwards, so -10 would be scrolling up, +10 would be scrolling down the page. And then when we get to the buttons, you notice that, like I have for button 1 again, or no, this is POV. Basically, you click in these boxes and you type in like what key on the keyboard you want pressed, or if it's something like the Windows key, you would right click in the box and it gives you this whole list. Like you can do specify left shift, left control, right control, left alt, right alt. And a lot of that's probably because there are some programs where it specifies functions on a VirtualBox's one, you have to press the right alt and something. The left alt won't do anything. You can also set it up for like volume up, volume down. It has where you can set up media shortcut buttons. I'm not sure what some of these buttons are for, like the IME off, on, the Hankaku, Zenkaku. You can set up where you hit a button on the controller for a print screen. But that is basically, in a nutshell, JoyToKey. And when you get to like my buttons 2 and 3, you see I have 2 set up for the right mouse click, button 3 set up for left mouse click. What I'll go ahead and do is just exit, which should just completely turn this off. Hopefully, yep, lost control. Alright, and then the next program was Keysticks. And it looks like this is going to be a slightly long video. Again, basically control your PC using a gamepad or a joystick. For simplicity, I might just avoid, well, I'll still go ahead and install it. If you kind of like some videos. This one, as far as I know, is actually free. As far as I believe. Go ahead and install it. I won't be playing around with this one too much because, again, I kind of prefer that JoyToKey accept. I figured I would show you some of, let you guys make the decision of which software you would prefer to use. There's also another one out there, JoyToMouse, that I tried it, but it didn't seem to have as much functionality as JoyToKey for me, so, or even the functionality of Keysticks. Because there are some things that, again, for some reason it's not wanting to install. Let's try just to continue. Keysticks is successfully been installed. So whatever that error was giving me wasn't an issue. But it's okay. So we'll go ahead and run Keysticks. Alright. And what you'll see is sound. See if I can move this. Yeah, I can move it. Is it brings up on your screen a little, well, actually looks like a Xbox controller, which is one of the main things I didn't like about it, because go into configuration. Let's set this on top of my head like a little crown. Alright, inputs, choose controller, controller 5. Right, POV. When you go to the controls, you see like it wants options. Right. Settings. But basically, if you look at it, you lose the two, you lose at least one of your essential buttons. Or maybe not, but yeah, it's basically, I was having a hard time setting it up, because like, if you'd seen at one point when I started out, it had button 9 as the press down button for the left joystick, but if you see what's highlighting, it's actually button 11, and button 12 is the left joystick. Button 9 was what they're showing was, according to them, supposed to be the button on the joystick button, but that's select. Button 10, it's showing would be pressing what would be button 12, 5 and 6, 7, 8, noticing that I was never able to fully get it to set up properly. But it had, the one thing I liked about it was it actually had a smoother mouse control, but because of the confusion of setting up the buttons, also controls, you had a lot of more functionality. You actually could specify, like for other things, if you wanted a back button and forward button, refresh the page instead of having to know the keyboard shortcut for it. It has a lot of the Windows key functions already put together. So if you have an Xbox controller, it probably would be a better setup because you can easily see what's what. The other thing that I had was, if you notice, you only, for like the mouse, it's showing that center button thing, so it would be evidently it won't let you assign a push button or something, I'm guessing. So, but again, those are pretty much the reasons why I preferred using the JoyToKey over Keysticks. And although we had a little bit of a rocky start, I'm not sure if it was some issues with the small laptop or the large laptop with the video, because I was doing cleaning and accidentally dropped a small dehumidifier on the small laptop, which I haven't noticed any screen cracks or any issues other than what we just saw with the video. But again, I'm not sure if it's a bad HDMI cable that I've had forever, connection with, or one of the two computers. So, but hopefully you got a good view of two ways that you can set up a gamepad for use on a Windows computer. Again, I'll let you guys decide which you would prefer, or how you prefer to use, which one you would use. I just know for me and my preferences, I like that JoyToKey. I was able to press the joystick a lot, gamepad a whole lot easier. So again, this is Chuck Gruver with the Gruver Tech Stream.